Hi there, this is Mrs. Tellas. We're going to be covering 6.2, which is understanding the language and notation of the nth roots and how to evaluate those expressions. So I've split my screen. I've got half my screen, the notes, the lesson, and then the other screen. Oh, where'd it go? I've got the other part, the decimals calculator. There it is. All right, so here we go. So you notice the vocab here. So I've got a radical sign here, which we're used to calling the square root sign. And it is a square root sign when the index is 2. However, sometimes the index isn't 2. And like in these examples, there's an index of 3. There's an index of 4. There's an index of 3. And when there is no index showing, the index is 2, which is why we call it a square root. Okay, so the square root symbol, if we wanted to use Decimals calculator for that, we all know that the square root of 10 or 100 is 10. Okay, and if we wanted to show that on the calculator, we could click on just the square root and then the number 10, and that would give, or 100, and that would give us the answer of 10. So if we wanted to do the next one, which is a cube root because it's to the third power, we would click this button, the square or the radical symbol with the n, with the index. So I would put the index of 3 up there, just like it is here, and I would type in the 8, and that would give me 2. So my answer here is 2. And same thing here. If I went to the calculator again and I picked the correct one, which would be this one because the index is 4, I put 4 on the outside and 16 on the bottom. And that would give me, pull it over so we can see it, also 2. And then you can even have a negative under the square root sometimes, the square root or the cube root of negative 125. So if we put a 3 here and a negative 125 on the inside, and I'm just using my number pad there, that's all I'm using, and that's negative 5. And the reason that is negative is because this one, 10 times 10 is 100. This one, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, and 4 of them is 16, and multiply negative 5 3 times and you get negative 125. Those are why that's working. So you have to know how to put in the calculator, but you also need to know what it actually means. All right, so if n is the nth root and a is the base, find the nth roots of a. So this time we have to do it ourselves. So a is the base, so that's going under the radical sign, and the n is the index, so we put it right here. So the square root of 81 is 9. And then if we put 1,000 under the radical symbol and a 3 here, we can type that in, but I see 3 zeros, so I know this is 10. And same thing here, if I put a 16 under and a 4 here, we just did this problem. So that'd be 2. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. Okay, it says write the expression in rational exponent form. Okay, what rational exponent form means is with an exponent. So the square root of 13, remember the index is 2, so that would be 13 to the 1/2 power. And on the next one, that would be 14 to the 1/3 power. So the radical, you can see, becomes the denominator in the fraction. Okay, so if you want to try the rest of these, you can press pause and give them a try. But this is just 92 to the 1/5, 84 to the 1/7. And even though this is an expression, it's still just v over 3h all raised to the 1/4 power. Okay, so the index goes in the denominator when you rewrite it in rational expression form. So it says, Kaylee says that x to the 2/5 is the same as x, the radical, the square root of radical x raised to the 5th. Is she right? Well, let's see. So if we work backwards from before, we know that the x is the base and that this number would be on the bottom. Well, that means this number has only got one other place to go. So Kaylee's wrong. That index goes on the denominator, not the numerator. So she has her fraction upside down. So you can see from this slide that if it's raised to a particular power, that goes in the numerator. So if we do a quick story problem, it says that the volume is 27 cubic feet. To find the dimensions of the cube, well, since it's a cube, they're all the same dimension. So I know that the volume V is 27. So 27 equals S to the third power. So if I want to solve for S, I take the cube root on both sides, which would give me 3. And the cube root of S to the third is just S. So these sides on the square or cube are 3. And you want to give this one a try, give it a pause and try it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So 3375 equals S to the cube. Again, I'm taking the cube root on both sides. And I don't know this one by heart, so we're going to have to put it in the calculator. So let's see. Here, this is kind of in the way. Let's move me up there. Okay, so we do the nth root. No, we want a new question. We want an nth root. And the index is 3, and underneath is 3375. So that's 15. So my sides on this particular cube are 15. All right, and again, my picture is in the way. Let's try it over here in this corner. All right, so this is the same thing that we were doing. I just added the power on the outside. So that error analysis problem, it's just kind of the notes on that. So you can see that the index is still right here, and it's still in the denominator in the fraction. And then your power would be b, and that's in the numerator. Base stays the same. So if I rewrite this in rational exponent form, remember that means with an exponent rather than under the square root symbol. So my base stays the same, the index is in the denominator, and the power is in the numerator. So this would be my answer, 9 to the 4/5. So why don't you press pause and try the other two? Make sure if there's more than one thing, like negative 35, you make sure it's in a parenthesis. Really, we should put the 9 in a parenthesis as well, but it's not necessary because it's just a 9. So if you pressed pause, hopefully you got a negative 35 inside. The 8 is the denominator, and the power is the numerator. And the last one, 81 to the 4/3. All right, so now we're going to go backwards and take what we know based on that form. We know the index is the denominator, so base stays the same, index is denominator, and the power is 1, so I don't need to write that. And then 74 is my base, the power is 4, and again, or the index is 4, power is 1, so I don't need to write that. And 112, index is 8, power is 1, so I don't need to write that. And 91, index is 10, power is 1, so I don't need to write that. Write the expression in radical form. Okay, so now I've got something other than 1 in the numerator. So negative 3 is my number, that's my base. My index is 2, and the whole thing is raised to the 9th power. And then here I've got 9 as my base, 11 is the index, and the whole thing is raised to the 8th power. And then I've got a negative on the outside. I'm raising the 10 to the 4/5 power. So the 5 would go here, the 10 goes inside, and the whole thing is raised to the 4th power. Notice that the 4 is not, or the negative is not being raised. All right, so now we're going to evaluate, and we actually did this one earlier on an earlier slide. So this is negative 5. I don't know what these other ones are, though, so let's type them in and see. So we've got a parenthesis, negative 64, a parenthesis again, and then we need to raise that. Can we put a fraction in there? I don't know. Let's see. 2 over 3. And that gives us 16. So these are calculator problems. It's just a matter of getting through the calculator to come up with the answer. So how about this one here? Let's do 9 to the 5/2. So 9, raise it to the power, then put the fraction in there. So 5 over 2. And that gives me 243. And then 256, And I need an exponent and a fraction. So 3/4, and that's 64. So it's a lot of calculator work today, but understanding what they mean. All right, here's an application. It says the radius of the sphere is given by this equation, where V is the volume of the sphere. Find the radius of the beach ball to the nearest foot. Use 3.14 for pi. And it says that here that the volume is 113 feet. So we're looking for R. So we're going to plug what we know and see what we come up with here. All right, so we don't know R. That's what we're looking for. So we do know 3, and volume is 113. So 4 times 3.14 tells me to use that, and it's all raised to the 1/3. So I'm going to use my calculator to help me here because I need it. So 3 times 113 is 339. So 339 on the top over 4 times 3.14. Nope, I need a point, not a 0. Try that again. There we go, 12.56. And I'm raising it to the 1/3. So now I'm going to try to put this monstrous fraction in there. So we need a new one. So parenthesis, and then we'll start with a fraction. So 339, parenthesis, 12.56, second parenthesis, and then we're raising it to the 1/3. And it gives me 2.9996. Does it say to round anywhere? I don't think so. So probably 3, since we rounded pi, so close to 3. So we're going to round that. We'll put approximately 3, and it is feet. So the radius of this beach ball is about 3 feet. All right, so you're going to go do your big ideas assignment now. You can go to Canvas or just go straight to big ideas. Make sure that you're writing down your steps, especially when they're asking you to write down your steps or when you have a story problem. Some of the stuff will just go directly into Canvas, so there won't be a ton to write down, but there will be something to submit. So, okay, thanks. Have a great day.